Ali Gilbert, the ultimate testosterone podcast. Look the part in the boardroom, own the part in the bedroom. In this episode, I interview the Ali Gilbert, a decorated fitness professional specialising in men's health and testosterone optimisation for men over 40. Closely aligned with the world-famous Marek Health, she is the creator of Silverback Coaching, an elite concierge health and performance system for men in the top 1% who win in business and want the body to match. We talked all things testosterone optimization, nutrition, and fitness. We discussed the stigmas around testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, debunk myths about prostate cancer and heart risks, and highlight the importance of holistic health, addressing lifestyle, nutrition, and hormone balance. We also spoke about her upcoming Silverback Summit, a men's health event fostering education and community. Here's a sneak preview of what we talked about. Dr. Kirk Parsley's work, the Mark Bell podcast, Dave Lee, hormone replacement therapy for women, boron, zinc, pregnenolone, TRT or testosterone replacement therapy, anastrozole, free testosterone, SHBG, aromatase inhibitors and estrogen, gynecomastia, blood testing, PSA blood test myths. Ali's transparency, authenticity, knowledge level, and the way she can get men to open up and meet them where they are at is priceless. She emphasizes open conversations about men's health, the limitations of supplements, and the need for individualized care. I hope these highlights spark your curiosity and entice you to dive into the full episode. Ali's journey and insights are truly inspiring, and there's so much more to explore in our conversation. Connect with Ali on the show notes below. Instagram, the Ali Gilbert, on the web, aligilbert.com, and the Silverback Summit, silverbacksummit.com. Thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former New Zealand Special Forces operator, subject matter expert, and the How Not to Die guy. And you're listening to my podcast, Straight Talk Mind and Muscle. This episode is proudly sponsored by these guys, State and State for Women, because aging is inevitable, but how we age is a choice. State is the ultimate daily formula for optimal health and longevity, backed by clinically proven 100% natural ingredients that's designed to support hormone health, stress resilience, energy, and performance. And I use it every single day. And a special thanks also to my new sponsor, Michael Mason and the Mason Survival Protocol. Links to both of these are in the show notes below. Catch all my past episodes and resources in the notes as well. Thanks for watching. Now let's get into it. Welcome to the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, sponsored by these guys, State, and welcome to my guest all the way from the States, which is I love having. I've just got back from the States myself, Ali Gilbert. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Damien, for having me.
It's an absolute honor to have you on. You're the second person with the title "the" in front of their Instagram handle. I've had you, the Ali Gilbert, and I've had the Amy Robbins on, which was beautiful to have on last year.
That was because Ali Gilbert was taken, and I was like, well, that sucks. And then so was like Ali G because of Sacha Baron Cohen, and I'm like, damn, I was the first Ali G. That sucks. That's not fair.
It stands out, which is awesome, and I'm so intrigued at finding out more about what you do. I've done a little bit of research, but really important, showcasing you to the audience there about what you do. So I guess that's the first question. I mean, I've literally got your Instagram profile here, which is brilliant. Helping high performing men fix what average coaches and basic doctors miss. The normalizing boner talk. Gosh, this could be uncomfortable in a conversation, whereas I normally ask the uncomfortable questions. But got to ask you, what do you do? What has got you all these followers and an amazing business and a really good reputation?
Probably my mohawk. I mean, what else would it be? No, I'm kidding. So I am a fitness professional by trade. Like that's what my degree is in. I majored in exercise science and everything. So I own an online coaching business for men over 40. I've got 3 coaches on my team, and we basically tackle all the men's health issues and integrate blood work, nutrition, training, lifestyle, travel, all of that stuff into one place so that guys don't have to piecemeal everything together like they do. So we just bring one solution, one team, everything.
males do generally tend to be action and answer orientated rather than females who tend to look at all the nuances of things, and we think we got that one solution, that magic pill. So I can see what you mean about getting those different piecemeal parts. But the obvious question that stands out to me, and it's a bit of a loaded question, is how can a female contribute to men's health? How can you communicate it in ways that guys get?
Um, it's funny because like people are like, how does this work? Like your colors are hot pink and chick, like I'm like, yo, I just make it work. I have to speak their language, right? So growing up as an athlete, I was a tomboy as a kid, and then being interested in similar things as men. Like I like cars, I like sports, so I can relate very easily. And studying guys. So I've read books. I mean, I've dated many men, so that gives you like experience to learn.
You've been around
Um,
us.
yes. So I spend a lot of time around them because it's a male-dominated industry. But being in men's health, like obviously you're going to be around more guys. So helping them to understand themselves because guys are so conditioned to not talk about when they don't feel right or if they need help because they have been told that that's weak and being vulnerable is soft and they don't want to be perceived that way. So I think being a female, I kind of bring that empathetic side out of them and they feel safe and confiding in me in certain subjects. So that's really how I make it work, and I'm confident in what I talk about. So I've built such a relationship with doctors, coaches, practitioners over the years that this is not just my opinion that I talk about. This is what I have learned over the last like 20 years. So,
Trust and rapport are two important things. You said the word competent, and competency, for me, from my backgrounds, brings trust. I don't tell the physio I saw today how to do physio like I wouldn't expect him to tell me how to put out a fire. Hopefully, he trusts me when I turn up to his house and it's on fire. I've got this, no problem. But competency brings trust. When you're retelling what you do, Ali, it reminded me of a friend of mine, Dr. Kirk Parsley, a former Navy SEAL, who went on to become a doctor and go back to the SEALs. And his story is brilliant because the guys that he used to operate with would sit down with him and actually tell him what the hell's going on. They wouldn't tell a doctor because we don't tell those alien sort of people. We don't talk to the non-operators, but they sat down and, dude, I've got no libido. I'm depressed. I'm not sleeping on these antidepressants. I'm on these sleep pills, and stuff's not working. And he actually created a whole business after fixing and helping all these SEALs out that would actually tell him what the hell was going on. And that was my next question with you, the communication. You sort of touched on it there. You talked about your empathetic side. How do you find guys opening up to you as a coach, as a female with that competency? And then what is that getting for them rather than just turning up to a gym and getting a trainer because you said you were a fitness professional by trade?
yeah. I think like you said, trust is a big part of it. And so when you work on the online space, you have to come across as somebody who is authentic and themselves. And I've been told that I do that very well. And if you meet me in person, like I'm the exact same in person as I am online because we've all met someone in person that we follow and they're like the complete opposite. And you're like, okay, who is this? Because like the trust level is going to go down here. So when someone gets on a Zoom call with me, they're like, oh, I'm like talking to you. And I'm like, yes, this is me. I am the same as the video that you saw. Like I will talk the same way. I will be inappropriate. I will do, the same shit. So I ask questions that people just won't ask. So I just go right at it, and that builds trust because they're like, she gets to the point. She's being very raw with me. And I call myself like the vault. Like you can share anything with me. I will not share it with anybody. I respect confidentiality similar to how a medical practitioner would. But like you said, like guys they don't go to the doctor unless it's like an emergency or like their dick is falling off or something like that. So they're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
I open up those lines of communication quite easily because I do want to know. I like to understand people. I like to get in their brain. I like to understand what's going on, what their fears and thoughts are, and like how they operate. It's always how I've been. So I think not a lot of guys get asked that, especially the guys we deal with. Like they're very high performing men. They run businesses. They're used to everyone looking up to them and providing answers and solutions to other people. So when it comes time to take care of them, like they're not used to being asked like, "Are you okay? How you feel?" No one cares because they're viewed as like they're solid. They're the superhero. So I kind of tear those walls down a little bit.
It's super important because people like that, and I speak from experience from guests that have been on the show, and the genre of people I've been around all my life, in tier one special forces units and so on. We don't ask for help. We ask for help when it's too late, like you said, and we're good. We're good. It's no problem, So it's brilliant that you are breaking through those walls and finding out the drivers. You didn't say those words, but that's really what you're trying to find out, so that you can then give the product appropriately, give the right programming, the right advice, and find out what the hell they do actually need, so you can get that result. Correct?
Yeah, 100%. Because men are solution oriented. I do talk about relationships with guys, and a big theme is like, even with me, with a man, like if I'm venting about something, I have to say, I don't want you to provide a solution. I just need you to listen. Just listen. Just let me just talk about it, because guys, they want to solve, they want to help, they want to protect, they want to lead. And I'm like, it's okay. You can just listen. So
It's so important to get the words out, and that's actually one of the ways we deal with trauma in some of these situations, to get those words out. And gosh, you don't need that solution; just need to relate those things. I'm intrigued though, at your clientele, and you've been on a plethora of shows, phenomenal people that have interviewed you and are clearly looking up to you. I was thinking the last one I quickly looked at was Mark Bell, a high performing weightlifter. You guys had a great show, but why are these people asking you again for advice? And they're kind of experts in their field. So, like we talked about offline, I wanted to try and mix this, pull this together as the Testosterone Podcast. There's so much out there, Ellie, as you know, misinformation, poor information, sometimes too much, sometimes too little, and some guys are literally, what is testosterone, and girls, and I want to touch on the females as well in that space. So let's transition a little bit to testosterone. You talked about your clients in general, high performing clients and so on, and what you're doing, but testosterone seems to be your bag, as it were. How did you get into that? And then why the hell do we in 2025, and we'll start with males, why do we need why do we need people to look at testosterone levels and what's going on? What's kicking off there?
sure. So I got into it because like after I graduated college, I majored in exercise science, and everyone with that major wants to work with athletes, but you find quickly it's like super saturated. So unless you're starting at the pro level, you're really not going to make a lot of money. It's difficult. So the town I grew up in Connecticut had a lot of wealthy guys that worked in New York City. We were the first town outside New York City. So the finance guys, the Wall Street guys, they all lived in my town, and a lot of them played golf. So I was like, well, this is a sport. I don't know anything about this, but I'm going to learn. So I dove head first into like everything golf fitness and became the go-to golf fitness person, which brought me all men as a clientele. And the conversations would just naturally go into hormones and nutrition and energy and all that stuff. And I was like, have you ever gotten blood work done, to a lot of the guys? And they're like, no, like nobody, 50s, 60s, never got it done. So I was like, this is so interesting because in the women's health world, like there's women's health certifications, conferences, like so much, but the guys are just like forgotten about. So
Yep.
I was like, this is a niche that no one's really like dominating and no women are in it. So I'll do it. And that was like 2011. So here we are now, fast forward, and getting them to understand testosterone, like it's such a highly stigmatized hormone.
Yep.
Women who go through menopause, they go on hormone replacement. No one cares. No one makes a stink about it. Like that's just the normal progression. Whereas when guys go through like male menopause is called andropause, but no one ever says that word. But when guys go through that, they're like, oh, well, I don't want to cheat. I don't want to succumb to going on testosterone. I don't want to, take steroids. And I'm like, listen, just because it comes in a needle doesn't mean you're taking steroids. Like the difference is in the dosage. So what bodybuilders take is going to be many numbers times what a therapeutic level is. And shifting the mindset from it's a weakness to like, this is something that's going to improve your quality of life, probably improve a lot of the other health markers in your blood work, have you feel better. And simply the purpose of therapeutic use is to bring you to the levels that you already biologically should be. So that it's a better understanding of what its use is. And it's not just muscles and sexual health, which a lot of guys associate it with. It's a lot more than that. It's helping with brain fog and lethargy and just inability to like dominate. Like guys wake up and they're like, I've lost that edge where like I had it and I don't have it anymore. And I go to work and I'm like, it's 2 p.m. I have no idea what just happened. So we eliminate that and all of that improves. And so some of the things that our guys say when and if they do go on testosterone, they're like, oh my God, my sleep is so much better. I can think more clearly. I feel more confident. Like I show up more as myself. I can execute decisions at a higher level, higher speed. I don't feel like I'm pushing thoughts through Jello at 2 p.m. All of that is not really as openly discussed. It's more like, oh, if I go on testosterone, I'm going to get jacked. Like we all wish that would happen, but it doesn't.
So it's not the big angry roid guy. You're talking about someone you didn't mention happiness and lack of depression or coming out of that. You talked about energy and drive and motivation. You use slightly different words and getting back to normal. I know personally a lot of guys have been through traumatic brain injuries, which causes a reduction in that. And of course, the depression and mental health side of that thing is really, really big.
Yeah. Yeah. And symptoms of depression are very similar to low testosterone. And as you know, with guys in the military, at least in the United States, when they come out of the military, the healthcare is horrible. And they've got so many issues. If they've been exposed to explosives or any post-traumatic stress, it kind of changes the wiring in the brain where it doesn't signal your body to produce testosterone anymore. So then they feel like that anhedonic attitude, just like very apathetic. They're just not themselves, but they're handed antidepressants, Adderall, Cialis, all these things to fix things that they really just need a solution through hormone replacement. So those guys are just beat up and they get ignored by our medical system because it's very rough. It's very rough. And like guys think, well, I'm depressed. So they don't think, oh, test your hormones. They think, well, what doctor should I talk to? And more often than not, the doctor hands them that antidepressant. It just makes things worse.
It really does. I was lucky enough to have Kagan Gill on last month, F-18 Super Hornet fighter pilot who ejected at the speed of sound or 10 Ks under the speed of sound. Horrendous injuries, broken body, and he went through exactly that. There was the TBI things, the psychological side. They misdiagnosed him as psychotic when it was actually horrible TBIs. And of course, there was the downstream hormonal effects as well. And to see him repair his brain wiring, as you said, to get those things back to normal was brilliant. And he's had to use, I believe, a combination of TRT, a lot of the sleep stuff that Kirk Parsley has done, and also some psychedelics to rewire the parts of his brain that had been physically damaged, at such a high ejection rate. Let's go back to normal people, though. I say normal people because they're not like me, who's been through that stuff. But why the hell do we need TRT? Why does our testosterone go down? So there's the throwaway lines, but it's backed up by some pretty good evidence. The average 20-year-old now has the testosterone level his granddad would have more testosterone than he does now. They're saying it's a third, and I'm sure you can throw out far better generic, real numbers than me generically. So what's going on with males in 2025 now, testosterone level wise, compared to 50 years ago, compared to 1970 when I was born in that time?
Yeah, it's really scary because I mean, guys in their 20s have levels that are so low. And a big part of it is like just the evolutionary process because no one really can put their finger on one thing. It's just a number of things. Like the sedentary lifestyle, it's going to contribute to that. So being overweight, being somebody who just doesn't move a lot, like there's no need for guys to go out and hunt and like dominate. So that kind of leads to that. We are literally bombarded by different types of toxic chemicals, plastics, all that stuff. So all of that contributes to that. And it's very interesting because there have been studies done um, on sperm production in men because it has decreased 60% in the
60%.
last, yeah, in the last few decades. And the study that Shanna Swan, she's a amazing doctor out here in the States. She was part of this study in 2017 that predicted men to be infertile by the year 2048, which is not far away. And typically, a lot of people know somebody who's had to use IVF to be able to conceive.
Yep.
And it was more often than not blamed on the woman for fertility issues. And now it's a lot of guys who are just not producing sperm. And so now you've got younger men who have low sperm, low testosterone, and no solution to why. So younger guys are going on testosterone because of that, because you can still have children and produce sperm if you're on TRT, which is a very misunderstood thing. But these guys are now like you're going to put a man who's 18, 19 through his 20s with low T. What kind of result are we going to end up with? Like, how is he going to learn how to really like be a man effectively if he doesn't have like the factory installed system that usually makes up what a man is made up of?
Yeah, that creates the difference between a male and a female during puberty.
Yeah, yeah.
So just thinking out loud, you talked about some of the reasons why nobody can put their finger on it, but if that 20-year-old or 20 something, we'll go 20 something year old male can eliminate some of this toxicity that's not required in his environment. And I was lucky enough to have an amazing woman on, Miranda Howe, years ago. She reversed her PCOS by taking out all those perfumes, taking all those chemicals, and reversed PCOS clinically, which was great. But that's just one person. But if this 20-something-year-old male can take out the environmental stuff, lose some weight, you mentioned overweight, so that we've got high estrogen possibly from that, start to look at correct nutrition, and I might touch on some actual compounds there soon. Can that person start to regain testosterone to a better level that you've seen, or is that a solution you'd recommend?
It used to be.
Wow, that's interesting way you've answered that. Please elaborate.
Yeah, it's so let me clarify. First of all, it doesn't mean that you're just doomed if you have low T levels. You're still going to have to address all the lifestyle factors.
Mm.
So if somebody's not sleeping, not eating properly, like, you know, they have like a trash can diet, if they're not training, exercising, like if they're not living a healthy lifestyle, that's not going to help your testosterone levels. So guys that we've worked with over the years, many of them, they don't want to start TRT right away. And I completely understand that. Let's do everything that we can to attack your health from the perspective of living a correct lifestyle, which is
Hmm.
like different for everybody. But basically, if we dial them in with nutrition, with training, you know, all the right things, it's rare to see test levels be reclaimed to optimum, and it's very rare to have it go up really high. So the most I've ever seen with somebody that I flipped is 300 points. So
That's pretty good.
did that really do a lot for him? he felt better, but it didn't stay there. So it's
Yeah.
something that's not going to stay, similar to like the herbal test boosters. Sure, on paper, yes, that will increase your testosterone, but you might go from like 250 to 350. That's not going to make a difference at all.
I'm
So,
glad you mentioned that in general, then dialed down on some numbers. It reminds me of Dr. Mike Israetel, just listening to one of his shows last week, talking about fat loss,
yeah.
comparing a drug, and I can't remember what the hell it was, some kind of fat loss drug that has, we'll call that the 100%, and then what these other things could do, the percentages of that. And I think there's a bunch of different things that were legal, and then there was the drug side of things. It was interesting watching him going through the difference there. So I guess then I'll just ask you some questions, and this is some is from testosterone doctors, some is from the research that you mentioned. Let's talk about, say, zinc and boron. Are they things that you've seen a shift with in testosterone naturally? You talked about the herbs and things, but let's talk about actual minerals that we need. Do they make a shift in someone naturally? Is that something that someone can use?
They can, yeah. Like boron especially can increase free testosterone levels. Um, again, it depends where a guy's starting from and like, oh, here, take boron, your life will get better. No, but can it help increase that and free some of the bound testosterone? Yes. So again, everybody's different. Can it make this dramatic difference where you're like, okay, I can take on the world? Probably not.
I guess I didn't contextualize that as well as I could have. If you mentioned testosterone boosters. I don't think there's such a thing. That's my thoughts. I think, as you started mentioning there, free testosterone is the difference here. If someone's low in, say, zinc, they're probably not going to making their total testosterone to what they probably could. It'd be quite dramatically low. But if you can start to make their free testosterone higher, that can make a difference. But we're really starting off on a low starting point with this decline over time, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, listen, like guys can definitely take those supplements and that will be a great adjunct to dialing in the rest of their life and everything. If they don't want to start testosterone right away, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
You know, but it's very difficult to increase free testosterone without exogenous testosterone. So even guys who are natural, who have more optimal total levels, and the measurements we use are nanograms per deciliter.
Yeah.
So if they're like 900 naturally, their free T might still be through the floor. So we do see guys who are upwards of those levels in total. They don't have the best testosterone free ratio. So they still might not feel amazing, but they're going to feel better than somebody who's at like 300.
That's where I want to go with your clientele specifically, and probably some of the audience. They're high performers. Maybe they're relatively healthy. Their total testosterone's there, but they're free super low. Now, am I right in saying it's probably a stress component in general, and that's causing that free testosterone to be bound too much, particularly with maybe SHBG? And is that something you'd address naturally, or how do you address that when you see someone's free testosterone is low, but their total testosterone that's not too bad? Let's figure out what's going on.
So an example that the audience can relate to is when the pendulum in the industry swung to the low carb world, carnivore, keto, paleo, like that whole thing. A lot of guys still live in that. Because more often than not, we have guys that are like, yeah, I've been fasting for however long. And
Fasting,
that's
starving.
just, yes, like I've been starving, I've been low carb, because low carb worked when they had a lot of body fat, and now they've gotten leaner and they're afraid to add carbs back in. So if you're
Yeah,
very low carb, that's going to increase SHBG.
gotcha.
So they don't realize that. So adding in carbs can be scary for them, but it actually can help. It also helps boost thyroid production. So you'll also see very suboptimal thyroid with suboptimal testosterone. They work in tandem. So it's tough to just isolate like total and free testosterone as
Yeah,
like only factor that is affecting someone's health. That's why you want to do like comprehensive labs to see how is everything working together and how is this affecting everything else. Because when you have suboptimal thyroid with low T, you're going to see higher cholesterol. You might see higher blood sugar. You're going to probably see low DHEA, which declines with age. So everything works as an orchestra. And you
Mm.
can't just take one piece of the orchestra out and everything else is going to be happy. Like it doesn't work that way. So it's really taking the entire health into account. But guys wear like their test number, like their bench press number, because they'll be like pissed if they can't increase their total. And I'm like, why are you so angry about this one stupid number? Like it's like just a fraction of how you're operating. Like in the fitness world, it's similar to like if I just tested your dorsiflexion on your left side. That's it. That's all I looked at. Okay. That tells us one thing. Cool. What about the rest of your body? Like, how's that working? So
Yeah.
I don't like to really isolate it just to those two numbers, but that's what like guys will like die on the cross trying to do is increase their levels. And you can do everything right sometimes and it just doesn't budge.
And what about females in this space? With you talked about hormone replacement therapy through natural premenopause and menopause, things change in females there because they're not ovulating anymore. But what about low testosterone females? What are you seeing, or are you seeing some of those clientele as well?
Yes. As odd as it is, being a woman, I know way more about men's health than I do women's health. So everyone's like, what's a good number for a woman? I'm like, I think it's like above 20, between 20 and 45. I do know that like when women go through menopause, they should be on testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone.
Yeah, the orchestra, but some idiot doctor will just give them a progesterone troche or suppository, and then and then they start bleeding, and things go to the orchestra's out of tune, isn't it?
Oh, it's terrible. And like when you're not in menopause, you probably need testosterone and progesterone. Like I've been on progesterone for like 4 years. It's a game changer for my sleep. And the equivalent in men would be pregnenolone, because pregnenolone is one of like the mother hormones that comes from cholesterol that like produces a cascade that ends in testosterone, estrogen. So if men have very, very low pregnenolone or progesterone, you could probably say, okay, we could maybe supplement with some pregnenolone as a neurosteroid hormone, but that's more of a side tangent. So for women with low testosterone, it can help with very similar things as men, such as libido, energy, muscle, all that stuff. People still associate it with like, oh, she's going to turn into a bodybuilder, she's going to grow facial hair, like all these negative things. But women suffer from that as well, especially if they were on the birth control pill. That
Yeah,
will suppress the production of her hormones
yeah,
and fuck them all up because that's like super synthetic. Like if anyone ever says like I don't want to go on synthetic drugs and steroids, I'm like, well, women are the biggest PED users ever because they're
yeah.
taking the pill, excuse me, which is all synthetic. So a lot of women suffer from having low testosterone because of that, and it sucks. But when they go on it, it can be in the similar delivery forms as guys, like cream, injection. There's still doctors that do the troches, like stuff like that. But women still need testosterone, just like men need estrogen. We all need that. We just obviously don't need the same levels as guys do.
So it was almost coming full circle to where you started saying the stigma of men take, or males even, taking testosterone, but you think nothing of giving a 13-year-old the pill, the contraceptive pill.
Yeah.
If a doctor told me I've got a 10-year-old boy that at 13 we're going to give him testosterone injections, I'll be flipping out. And then
Yeah.
worse is the doctor who gives, sorry, I'm going to get on a soapbox, the doctor who gives that female, 13-year-old female, the contraceptive pill for acne. I mean, what is going on? But there does need to be the big picture, the whole orchestra side of things that you're talking about brought to light, I believe, Ellie.
Yeah. And they're realizing like how bad the pill is for women now, finally. Like when I was 17 or 18, my mom put me on the pill. That was what you do. It was just you take your daughter to the gynecologist and you go on birth control. And I was like,
Oh
why am I on?
gosh.
It was so weird. Like my boobs grew overnight. I was like, this is so bizarre. And I finally, like, I learned enough to know to come off of it 2 years later because I was like, I just don't like how this feels.
No.
But parents didn't know any better because that's literally, that was what you do. Just like cereal for breakfast, it's what you do. Now we know better.
Yeah, the doctor side back then compared to what we know now is phenomenally transparent. And people like yourself and some of the guests actually bringing the information out. I guess that brings us to, I'd actually, Dave, got some kind of format for the show today, to exogenous testosterone, two fancy big words for giving that testosterone hormone to a human. I think that's where you're really well known here in this space. So, what does a typical client of yours that has cleaned up his diet, has dropped some body fat, done the things, is going, right, still not there. Ali, what do you recommend? What does that look like?
So with our guys, we do blood work when they come in. So I've partnered with a fantastic telehealth clinic here, Marek Health. We run our labs. I've designed my own panel. So we have the Silverback panel and we see where a guy stands. So usually they've just never had blood work done at this level. It's basically just routine physical stuff. So if he has suboptimal testosterone levels and he does not want to start it yet, he's like, I feel okay. And he's okay with being okay. You're going to feel better if we dial in everything else. Then we will reevaluate. And so that can be in 6 months, it can be in 12 months, like whenever we want to do blood work again. Typically, it's twice a year. We see where he sits. More often than not, he's pissed that test levels didn't go up all the time. So are you struggling with some of those okay symptoms? Then the symptoms usually are a little bit more amplified. Like, yeah, I'm tired, brain fog. I just don't feel like myself, energy, mild depression, whatever it is. All right, let's try it. So it is a lifelong commitment. But I tell guys, you can always come off. Like, you're not going to drop dead if you come off. You're just not going to feel so great. And I will say, like, every client that we've had who struggled with the decision to go on and commit to it, once they're on, they're like, I wish I started earlier. I don't ever want to come off. They feel so good that that's their new normal. So then they get their prescription, and then typically we start with injections. If they don't want to do injections, we could do cream, or there is an oral version as well. So that's basically how we start. And then you just sit back and watch and everything gets better. Because it really is true. Like when you do get your shit together in terms of like you clean up your act, you're not drinking as much alcohol, you're eating a lot better, you're getting up early, you're going to the gym, you're doing all those things. Then when you add in testosterone, because your body's just not making it, not producing it, and it is such a critical hormone to operating optimally as a man, then when you add that in, it's like a game changer for a lot of these guys. Their whole demeanor changes. And getting on Zoom calls with them, they're just like these very confident, like individuals that are like night and day sometimes. And they feel it, they see it, their wife sees it, their kids, like their peers. It's really cool. And that's why I'm so pro TRT, because I know what it's like for a guy to struggle forever. And he's literally resisting the fact that he just doesn't want to get on a medication the rest of his life. And I totally understand and can appreciate that. But it just becomes routine, just like brushing your teeth. It's something that you do. And it really just makes your life so much better that it really takes away the annoyance of having to inject 3 days a week or do whatever.
Marek Health does seem to be the leader, and there's many guests that I believe work for Marek. Dr. Kirk Parsley is one of the top doctors there. Jeff, one of the SEAL Team 6 guys over there in Virginia Beach, another guest on the show. He's aligned with it with one of the strength coaches, I think about 3 or 4. Andy Stumpf, another guy with Marek Health. A bunch of them are aligned with it. So how does that work? I'm just not sure how Marek and you are tied together there. Marek is the labs or doctors that you'll be utilizing, or what's the
Oh,
story there?
oh. So I have relationships with many different physicians over here.
Mm,
I also have relationships with clinics in Australia, Dubai, the UK, and parts of Europe.
yep,
So we have clients internationally so that we can set them up with competent care and blood work.
great,
Merrick has allowed me to design my own panel and that we've basically branded with Silverback logo and colors and everything. But I got to pick which providers and health coaches that my clients see.
yep,
So our clients get access to them. I have the ability to sit in on the blood work reviews
great,
so that our client realizes, oh, wow, they're all on the same page because
yep,
very, very, very rarely do you have your physician or your medical team does not talk to your fitness team. And the man is in the middle managing conflicting opinions. And we
yep,
just eliminate that because they're very good at what they do. They trust what we do. And if we have a guy dialed in, I could also look at the labs and say, oh, this, and this can be rectified with diet and training. So we don't have to throw a pharmaceutical or a supplement at it.
great.
Their job is easier because then they're like, oh, well, if we just need testosterone, we'll ship that to you. Perfect. We've got everything else taken care of. Great. Everyone's happy. Everyone's communicating. Have a nice day. And then our client doesn't have to think, manage, follow up, whatever. So they make it very easy for me.
What a brilliant summary of how it works, and thank you for being so succinct. What about when it goes wrong? And I say that I wanted this to be a testosterone answer all. And I'll never forget listening to one of Ben Greenfield's podcasts with a testosterone guy, some kind of air quotes expert. And he was saying some males, when they take testosterone, that's just bad luck. It's going to go to an estrogen pathway and they're going to get gynecomastia, fancy word again for the audience. They're going to develop breasty things. What about when it goes wrong for some people? Do you see that? And if you do, what's the solutions, or don't you see it all because you're getting the orchestra all playing in tune?
So this goes back to where there's so much misinformation out there, right? So estrogen in men is one of the most highly debated hot topics in men's health in the TRT space. And the bodybuilding world caused that problem where
Right.
basically when you're taking crazy levels of testosterone compounded with all these other different anabolics that do a lot of other things, shit goes wrong. So somehow that funnels into, oh, well, it's also what goes wrong with TRT. And that's simply not the case. One of the biggest benefits to testosterone replacement is the conversion of testosterone into estrogen. Then guys have cardio protection, they have neuroprotection. It helps their belly fat stay low, it helps their libido, erection quality, a lot of favorable things. The bodybuilding world decided estrogen is bad. We need to block it. We need to suppress it with medication. So that conversion is called aromatization. So there's an enzyme called aromatase that takes testosterone, converts it into estrogen. Somehow everyone thinks that that's a bad thing, and it's not. And it does not cause gynecomastia. Gyno can be caused by a whole multitude of different factors, mostly when somebody is overweight as a child and their hormones are all over the place. There's a genetic component to it. It really is only removed through surgery if someone has true gyno. So it's not like if you block estrogen, all of a sudden it's going to disappear. Guys will say, well, my nipples get sensitive and I feel it when I go on testosterone. And that's normal because your hormones are fluctuating. Because right now it's like, oh, influx of like something I haven't gotten. So your body's kind of like trying to find homeostasis. So things are going to feel different. And that's
Mm,
completely normal. One of the physicians in my network who speaks at my summit literally talks about estrogen every single year because it's still so misunderstood because a lot of clinics here in the US, they give out estrogen blockers like candy. Because
right.
as soon as those levels go up, they're like, ah, bad, block, suppress, like it's bad. You don't want to do that because if you think about what happens when women go through menopause and they lose estrogen, osteoporosis, insulin resistance, cardiovascular issues, same thing in guys. you don't want to block estrogen. And I also have learned from these doctors that measuring estrogen in blood work is not a true reflection of what you see in a man because it is not produced by an endocrine gland. It's a paracrine hormone. So it would be equivalent to saying, hey, Damien, I'm going to see how much money you have, but I'm just going to look in your wallet.
Oh,
That's it.
wow.
So it kind of just gives you a glimpse. So it's really obsolete to measure it on blood work because it doesn't fucking matter. But guys just freak out when it goes high. So we have guys, their estradiol on paper is like 60, 70, 80. They're totally fine. So if you've ever met someone who has blocked estrogen at a very high level, so anastrozole is the main medication that's used, and typically it's half a milligram to 1 milligram once or twice a week. We've had guys that they're like, yeah, I was taking anastrozole like 3 to 4 milligrams a week. They
Oh,
feel like they feel awful. They can't get an erection. Their joints hurt because when you lower estrogen, like it lubricates the joints. The joints go, you can't train hard. It's not a good feeling. And it impacts your brain. So, educating guys on that is huge. Educating doctors on that is also very crucial because, again, many of them don't understand the evolved literature and how estrogen is basically a very anti-inflammatory hormone. That's why it lives in body fat tissue, because body fat is the most inflammatory tissue that exists. So when someone's overweight, yeah, they're going to have more aromatase activity because they're going to make more estrogen because the estrogen's like, what the fuck is going on? I need to suppress the inflammation around me.
you've
So
really crayoned that out beautifully for my caveman brain there.
thank you. It's obviously many times I've explained this because it gets so tiring. And every time I post a video, it's like this debate. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
literally did it Sunday. So Dr. Jordan Grant, who was a urologist here in the States, and now he has his own hormone clinic. He speaks every year on estrogen in men. So I posted the video of him saying, I'm speaking at Silverback Summit on estrogen in men. He's doing a deep dive. And of course, people start like arguing. It's like clockwork. And he's like, I literally get anxiety every time you collab a post with me, Ali, because I know what's coming. So yeah.
Online debates. It's interesting when you put yourself out there to the general public and they come back. Sure, there's pros and cons of social media, that's for sure.
Yes, everyone's an expert, they're what is it? Armchair warrior, keyboard warrior,
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, okay. Go on. And I'm like, okay, come to the summit and actually learn the truth.
yeah,
And of course not. And like
exactly.
Jordan he always asks them, well, please produce a study that is causation of high estrogen doing XYZ. And no one can ever do that.
Well, that's a bit like taking testosterone causes prostate cancer. Now, I
Yep.
listened to I don't listen to podcasts. I listened to an audiobook or podcast about 3 years ago. Um, and he went back to the research, and this researcher that developed this research, he only had 4 subjects in the test.
Yep.
2 dropped out. So there's only 2 subjects in this test. One developed a cancer and one didn't from memory. That part I'm not so dead on. I'm sure you'll pick it up. And therefore there was a 50% increase in cancer risk in taking testosterone in males. Does that sound a little bit right?
Yes. And that study was in 1941.
There you go.
So it's ludicrous. And Jordan, being a urologist, did a ton of surgeries related to prostate cancer, had tons of guys with prostate cancer. He Sometimes I've had him do 2 talks, one on prostate cancer, one on estrogen, because
Mm-hmm.
there is so much misinformation. And he talks about how he had guys with metastatic prostate cancer who are on TRT
Mm-hmm.
and how it does not cause that because take somebody with suboptimal testosterone levels, they are prone to what is called the saturation model. So anybody below 250 nanograms per deciliter, when you add testosterone to the equation, the prostate will grow.
Hmm.
But when it hits 250, anything beyond that, it's saturated. It doesn't fucking matter. So it's not going to grow beyond that. So when you have cherry picking of things that, oh, well, the prostate grew when I added testosterone. Yeah, but where was the starting point? Where did you go up to? So understanding that it actually does not cause it is something he's literally brutal with because he's like, show me a study that testosterone causes prostate cancer, not correlates, isn't in correlation in any
Mm.
way, causes. You will not find one study that makes it the cause. But the default treatment for prostate cancer is to chemically castrate men,
Oh.
deprive them of both testosterone and estrogen. How do you think you're going to feel with that?
Eunuchized, eunuch, whatever the word is going to be, but you turn into a eunuch. Um, I believe the PSA test, the person who developed the PSA blood test, wishes he stated he wishes he never developed it because there's too many false positives on there, and people are having surgery to remove this thing that, or exploratory surgery that didn't exist. Is that correct?
Yes, PSA, like even Jordan doesn't love that test because if you have sex the night before, if you ride a bike the night before, if there was like any sort of like trauma to that area, that can affect what your results look like. So, you know, it's something that again, I'm not a doctor, but like I would want to keep an eye on. Like we did have one guy, his PSA was 22. So that's kind of like off the charts. So we had him get that looked at and it ended up being prostate cancer. And thank God, like we found that and we took care of it. But more often than not, when you see like a slight increase, it's not what you think it is. It's not going to be like, oh my God, that's prostate cancer.
Yeah. What is, I'm going to go on to how to come off it, testosterone, and then sum up. But while we're here on the busting myths, what's the standout things that we haven't covered that you'd like people to know more about? This is just straight out plain wrong.
Those are the big ones. I would say heart attacks is another one. So heart attacks and strokes, they have now, there's tons of literature now showing testosterone is safe for heart attacks. I'm sorry, safe for cardiovascular health. There isn't the association of it causing cardiac events. And guys, both prostate cancer and with cardiac events, if you have low testosterone, you're actually more prone to developing those things
Mm-hmm.
because if low testosterone, you likely have low estrogen, and estrogen's cardioprotective. So that is a really big part of the studies.
Yeah.
My cardiologist will be speaking at my summit on the Traverse trial, which is the big study with cardiovascular events. I can't talk. And testosterone. And it's something that just guys throw around like prostate cancer. Well, I don't want to take it because I don't want to get a heart attack or have prostate cancer. Okay. There's like literature now. Like we
Yeah.
have evidence.
Good. Um, you mentioned near the start about coming off. Kirk Parsley has talked about, once you're on, you pretty much should be on for the rest of your life. But you talked about being able to come off it and you're not going to feel quite as good. Do you have a protocol to help those guys out so they don't get, the drop and they want to put a 45 in their mouth type thing? How do you help someone out coming off it if they want to take a break or if they do want to try and see where they're at?
I've never had anybody ask that.
Wow.
So
There we
I don't
go
have
then.
yeah, I don't have a go-to answer for that.
Wow. And that's clearly, I mean, I'm inferring and I'm probably going to paraphrase, but because they feel so good doing it, there's no reason to come off for them.
Yeah, like I can't think of, we're talking years. In the last 15 years, I've had nobody who has come off, or at least that I know of, they haven't told me. I haven't had anyone come off, at least when they were under my supervision or whatever. I've had guys who have gone to other physicians because they wanted to have a baby and then they were told they had to come off in order to do that, which they don't have to. But when they do that, like it's kind of a catch-22. Like you feel like shit, you don't want to have sex, but you're trying to like, make a kid, and it's like, good luck, bro, you know? So that's happened, but yeah, because when guys think of like coming off, it's usually in relation to doing a cycle, which is completely different than
Yeah.
therapy, testosterone. Like that it's a lifelong thing. Just get over it. Do it.
We talked about the downsides, or really it's almost air quotes downsides, and you've busted those myths, which are awesome. Let's talk about libido and the other cool things that you see. You talked about, and you reminded me when you talked about nipples, your hormones are trying to stabilize. So libido, what happens? Because that's a big thing that I'm assuming these golfers were talking to you about as well. What goes on with guys there that you've seen on the pro side of things?
So libido is tricky because a lot of guys will think, well, if I go on testosterone, I'll just want to have sex 24/7. They wish, they don't. Um, or it will just drastically improve. And it can, right? So it's just one part of it. So libido can be affected by so many things. And the analogy that I like to use, because it's a fitness analogy, is thinking about how stress impacts a man. So stress can come in the form of emotional stress, physical stress. Like your body doesn't really know the difference. So if you're in the gym and you're trying to do a 1 rep max squat, and you're at the bottom of that squat, you're coming out, you're like shaking, about to like shit your pants, your eyes are bulging, like you're literally like about to fall over. And a woman walks in front of you and is like, let's go. You can't shift gears and like pop a boner mid squat. At least I've not met anyone who can. So that's similar to the impact stress has on the body. Because even if someone's like in front of a laptop and a guy's like super focused on a deadline, and same thing happens and a woman walks in front of him, like it's going to be very difficult to shift gears.
Yep.
So taking somebody who's chronically stressed and then giving them testosterone is not going to fix the libido issue.
Of course.
If it's a true issue coming from testosterone, then yes, it may help. Some guys, they go on testosterone, their libido actually goes backwards for other reasons. Like it's a sympathetic driving hormone. So it can make you more driven, therefore ramp you up, therefore make you more stressed, and then suppress libido. So there's also like things that stem from erection quality and uh like how hard they can get. Because I do hear from our guys that they're like, yeah, like libido is great. Like I wish I was just like a little bit harder, like longer. And it's like it's always they want that. And I'm like, I don't know how to fix that. Like it could be a blood flow issue. Like you actually get better blood flow if you're healthy, if you do cardio, like because cardio is like a foreign language to a lot of guys. So it could be a blood flow issue, it could be a brain issue, it could be a testosterone issue. Like it's usually those three things that are affecting erection quality, frequency, strength, all those things in tandem with libido, because libido and erections, even though they happen together, they are kind of very separate, because you could have a high sex drive and not get the best erection quality, and then vice versa. So it's really finding what that root cause is. Because if it is a blood flow issue, like are you a smoker? Are you constantly restricting the blood flow there? Do you have a varicocele, which is like a vein that really constricts the area down there? Do you have stress that literally just you're blinded all day because of work? Whatever. Are you overtraining? Are you undertraining? Like there's so many things that go into libido. Do you have, excuse me, childhood trauma from a girlfriend in high school who made fun of your dick? Like that can all affect it.
Damn, I bet you wouldn't have thought when you got on that golf course and teaching golf fitness that you'd be having these conversations years later.
Nope. But it's my mother was always wildly transparent and blunt, and that is how my personality is. So I always joke that I have the toxic trait of saying what other people think out loud. And they appreciate it. Like people appreciate it because it's like, guys don't often get asked unless they're in front of a medical practitioner, like, how is your erection quality? How's your sex drive? Like they don't associate that with fitness. So
Mm.
I brought that into the fitness because it does all work together. So getting them to understand their body and how their lifestyle choices and habits affect sex drive, you have to connect the dots there because otherwise they're just going to be taking pills to band-aid it and rectify it.
Particularly the way the American medical system works. What a
Yeah, great.
what a way beautiful way you pulled it all together. You mentioned about the symphony and orchestra and so on through this show, but really you've by default gone to that each time. It's not this one thing you're asking, Damien. It's not this. It's not this. And that's what I wanted to bring you on is bust through those myths and get some clarity on these things, because there's just too much out there that's wrong information. And you've really summed up what you do as a complete package. In particular, teaming up with Marek and such a team of people. What I also love is being an international show, is you've got access to other countries' medical staff as well, which is a great thing.
It's awesome. I love it.
You got the show notes at the start that everybody's heard with the links and things. But at this stage, of course, we always ask the guest, where's the best place to find you? But you've also talked about the Silverback Summit, and I've seen a lot of your socials about that. So let's touch on where to find you and touch on what the Silverback Summit is. And by the way, I do love that word, Silverback.
Thank you. Best way to find me is on Instagram at the Ali Gilbert, ALI. So that's where I'm most active. Silverback Summit is my men's health event that I created 4 years ago to basically fill a void that no event like this existed. So I bring together my top TRT practitioners across the world. So they come from Europe, Australia, all over the place. And I put them in the same room as my most trusted fitness professionals, entrepreneurs. So it's basically everything men's health in one room with no rules, no regulations. We talk very openly about things that you and I were just discussing, but at a deeper level so that it's not stuff you would actually find on YouTube or anything else. But it also creates like a massive camaraderie. Like people go into that room, their business gets better just by the friendships and the relationships they cultivate being there. They feel understood. They feel like, oh, people here get me. You're amongst others who are very ambitious and driven. So it's a really great group. We're doing it in November, the 13th through 15th in Orlando, Florida. And they can go to silverbacksummit.com to find out more.
Beautiful. I've been to a couple of health events over in Orlando, and it's beautiful to see. And I know what you mean about being in that room. The energy, that vibration of the thoughts and things that are going through can be phenomenal. So sounds like an exciting event. I've been to USA already this year, though, so I'd have to save up a ton to get there, but I'd love to be there myself.
I know. I wish you could come back.
I'll
It's
see
a
what I
hike,
can
though.
do. Amazing to have you on, Ali. Thank you so much for being so humble and accepting the invite. Just last week, and it's the fastest turnaround I've had on a guest from an invite to coming on, which is beautiful. I love what you do, and you put it in such a great way for the listeners and the viewers as well. It's been great to have you on.
Awesome. Thank you, Damien. I appreciate that.
Awesome, thanks. I'll hit pause. We'll have a quick chat. Thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former New Zealand Special Forces operator and former Australian police officer, and your podcast host. Please check out my new project at hownottoDieAguy.com, where I teach everything you need to know to both males and females, at-risk populations, schools, kids, and the elderly for self-defense, situational awareness, and all-round skills that every good person should know. Thanks for watching.